want an answer to that question. So you got a ball and it has several knots inside. How is that even possible, and where is it happening in the process? And actually, the answer is very technical, whether you want to hear it or not. I'm going to be sharing that after. If not, if you don't want to hear it and live in denial, just click me off right now. No, go. Everybody else, stand by.
Welcome to my channel, and I'm here to inspire you, give you crochet advice, and help you along with your next project.
So we have a multi-part question, which I'll try to answer as quick as possible. And the question became, well, how come there's so much more knots? Because back in the 60s and the 70s, the yarn balls were not as filled with knots as they are today. Now, the actual true answer to that question is that back in 1960s, 70s, 80s, and etc., what has changed? Automation, yes, and the human population. So currently, as of 2022, when this is filmed, there's 7.9 billion people. In 1960, there was 3 billion, 1970, 3.7 billion, 1980, 4.4 billion, 1990, 5.3 billion, in 2000, 6.1 billion, 2010, 6.9 billion, and 2020, 7.7 billion people. So what has changed over these years? It's actually our human population and the need for products to be made faster. And with automation, and with that, we have a lot more technical issues as a result of trying to keep up with the human population. So how's that grab you for detail? I know how to Google. So that's not the full answer. So my friends at yarnspirations.com allowed me to film in their factory several years ago. I'll put some of that footage there because it's prettier than my face. And what you're going to notice in the footage is that you're going to notice that there's a lack of human beings actually on the plant floor. That's not because I was filming. I was not allowed to film people, I will tell you that, but I was not allowed to move people out of the way in order to film. It is that automated. There is endless aisles of machinery that is working at lightning speeds in order to keep up with the demand of yarn. This is just one plant out of several that are making yarn at this particular speed. Now, I know what you're thinking, well, why can't they slow down the process? Didn't we not talk about that? 7.9 billion people. In order to keep up with the thirst of human beings wanting things here and now, because God forbid the shipping is 5 days and not 3. So generally speaking, if you really look at yarn, you'll notice that most of the yarn has 4 plies. That is not one process. That is actually 4 processes in order to make one strand of yarn when it's a 4-ply. So if it's an 8-ply, then there's 8 processes in order to do it. So each one of the strands is actually made individually from each other and is created in the spinning section. So there is a roving cone that is spinning, and these machines are putting it down into these cones that almost look like thread. And it's those threads that actually turn into the ply of the thickness of the yarn. I don't know why I'm pointing at you. So those are actually being made. So if there is a jump of one cone of those to another, you will have such a small knot. And sometimes if you're looking really carefully, you can actually see the jump of the 1-ply to the 1-ply itself, even though it's a 4-ply yarn. It's the knots that you notice the most is when all of the plies have been cut and reset. So in the spinning process, if something is going slightly wrong with that machine, sometimes you can get a fluff, but you know what a lot of that is? I don't even know if I'm allowed to tell you. But sometimes there's like all this fiber blowing in the air, and sometimes some of those fibers get stuck and they float into where it's being thick and then go right into the actual process itself. So all of these cylinders are being made, and then they're actually transferred to another station. So it's another group of people that are working. It's called the doubler. So what they're doing at the doubler is that they put all these particular cones on the cylinders on a rack. And so this rack here is feeding it into a major industrial cone from that particular process. So if it's making 4-ply, 4 of these cones are actually going with it at the same time. Now, in order to keep the process really quite quick, what they do is they tie the middle of the strand that's inside the cylinder to the next cone that is ready to go, so that when one cone runs out, it literally jumps to the other. Usually those ties in those particular process, you will never see those in your yarn because they're so small. And so that's one of the particular processes. However, the machine is not endless. So if they have to cut all 4 strands and reset, that's when you'll see one knot that may happen within your particular process. Again, once these machines are set, it's just automatic, good to go. And so the operator is circling back. And so they may not realize that the same machine is being reset over and over. And that's why you can end up with several knots in a row on your particular ball, because it is so automated, and that's just the way it is. I can't say it with, I can't say it any more politer. That's just the way it is. And so that's automation for you. But another knot can appear down in the future, because this is not the end of the line. So now we're going to the twisting station. So the twisting station, its goal is to take the doubler cone that was made, and the doubler cone does not have the twist spin to it. So if you actually looked at the yarn itself, it's not twisted. That's what the twisting station does. So they put it in, and then they feed up the end, and it goes through and it spins it, and then, or twists it, and then it puts it onto another industrial cone. This is one of the last processes before it goes to yarn finishing. If during the twisting process that the yarns snap, then it then stops that particular station. But all the rest of them, you don't see anybody here in this video, because this is so automated. They literally set the machine, and these machines just go for hours and hours and hours making these industrial cones. I don't even know how much yarn is actually on an industrial cone, but it is several yarn balls. And so when the operator comes back around, if they notice one of them is not going up anymore, they just tie it back, and then they reset it and continue. So if you see a knot in the ball, chances are it can be from this particular process here, because all of the strands got snapped at the same time. So therefore, that's when you'll see a full knot. It's just the way it is. But it can happen. So if you're super lucky, like getting a cereal box with a prize in it, anybody remember that? You can leave me a comment if you remember that. So it's in the yarn finishing section. That's when you're going to see the most knots. So if you end up having a knot in your ball, chances are it's from this particular process. So all of these twisting industrial cones have come over to yarn finishing, again, another group of people, and this is completely automated as well. So what happens is that the one industrial cone is fed up through the machine, and once that's in, the middle of that industrial cone is tied to the next available cone that's underneath it. And so once that cone runs out, the tie that is jumping from one cone to another is the one that you most likely see in your yarn ball. And so instead of having the whole machinery shut down, because there are several of these stations going on at the same time, they tie it to the last particular cone, so that the machine can just keep feeding it over and over. And once that cone is empty, they literally will shift it, put a new cone, and then tie the other cone to that cone. And it's just a continuous revolution. Where it does not happen is in yarn finishing itself, in the actual making of the ball. If the yarn snaps during the ball process, what happens is that it's removed. It doesn't meet the weight. It doesn't get a ball band, and it's put aside and put into what is called as mill ends. So people want no knots, but there is such a detriment to the environmental side of it, that if you get a knot-free ball, especially in mass production of making yarn, the amount of yarn that can end up in the landfill is absolutely just astounding. We go through that much yarn. So when we think about all the knots that are in the process, if you want a knot-free ball, then what happens is that you end up with all this yarn that just sits in landfill and goes to waste. And we really don't need that. So as yarn artists, the way that I feel, and you can completely disagree with me, is that I feel like we have to do our part in order to enjoy this particular process. Life is changing, automation is changing everything, and certainly the human population. So when I think about what we can do to enjoy this hobby and also understand what goes on behind the scenes, I think we have a better appreciation for how yarn is made and what we can do as yarn artists in order to overcome. Yes, it's inconvenient in a ball. Not going to argue that. That's going to be the first thing up on the message board for this video. But it is what it is, and it's just one of those things that we have to deal with. And there's just no way to sugarcoat it. It just is what it is. So if you have any feedback, you can let me know in the comments below. We'll see you.